Hello and welcome to the Movie Power Rankings show. This is our December preview show. I am your host, the editor of Movie Power Rankings, Gabriel Alexander. I'm joined again by critic Mike Romick.
Okay.
Thanks for being here today, Mike.
You're welcome.
All right, let's get to it. We're going to start with, we have 24 films in December on the Power Rankings, and we'll get to as many as we can. So starting with number 1, we have The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. Any reason to think that this isn't the biggest movie of the month?
No, not at all. Preview is great. People are excited. It's got a great title that leads you to believe there's going to be lots of action. And I mean, I'm looking forward to it. It's my number one movie that I'm looking forward to of the holiday season.
Yes, Peter Jackson's second trilogy from the Tolkien universe. Do you think we'll be seeing any more Tolkien?
Well, there's a whole lot of Tolkien stuff out there, but if anybody tried to read that, it's a little difficult. But again, never say never.
So this could be the last time we visit Middle Earth in cinema. So.
Yeah.
All right, number 2, Ridley Scott's new movie, Exodus, Gods and Kings. Christian Bale starring as Moses, Joel Edgerton as the Pharaoh, and some complaints here a little bit about the casting. Why are there all these white actors playing Egyptians and
that? And if you see the preview, I mean, it looks fabulous, but it looks a little bit like CGI hell with all of that. And then, of course, Ridley Scott's been giving interviews where, sort of downplaying, if believe it or not, the religious angle, saying that they're going to be as scientifically
based in reality.
And I think, where Noah, which was a surprise hit, I think, for all concerned, didn't go that route, where this might alienate, that core audience that is, really needed for this big budget religious spectacle.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it'll do the business. I don't think it's going to get any kind of award recognition.
Well, again, Ridley Scott's, normally recognized, but whether this is, this time, it's certainly going to be better than The Counselor. I mean,
yeah, right. He needs something better than The Counselor.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, number 3, Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb. This is the third entry, I believe, into this franchise. And
third and final, supposedly. We'll see how the business goes, whether there's going to be a fourth and final. But, with Robin Williams, sadly, passing away, and, kids love that movie. I mean, it rented really well. They did well, and, lots of CGI. But, when the trailer's funny, and again, I think it'll do well as a good family. There's not a whole lot of family stuff at Christmas. A lot of that, other than Annie coming up, but a lot of other, where the Big Hero 6 and the Penguins that came out at Thanksgiving, sort of that. Other than Annie, that family business is to itself.
Okay, yeah. It's filling the void for those family. Ben Stiller's back. A lot of the other cast from the
Dick
previous
Van Dyke and
Owen Wilson and. Okay, moving on to number 4, Into the Woods, director Rob Marshall from Chicago, and the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And
I believe so, with the one with Penelope Cruz.
Yes, and so this is a musical and based on a famous musical, right?
But, if you looking at the trailer, which again, I thought looked good, very interesting cast, Meryl Streep and Chris Pine and Anna Kendrick, but they're really making it look like Maleficent. And I've seen the musical. It was very dark. The first half, not so much setting up. Second half, what comes after, happily ever after. And it's like, the accusations they changed it, they didn't change it, whatever. But surprisingly enough, you don't hear a whole lot of singing in that preview. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and it's like if people are thinking it's Maleficent, that's fine, but it's Maleficent with a whole lot of songs.
Yes.
And a lot darker if they follow the actual play.
And Johnny Depp looks suspect to me as the big bad wolf. I don't know what they're thinking there.
Well, again, they're thinking Johnny Depp with a magic touch, but again, Johnny Depp hasn't had a whole lot of luck recently as far as Transcendence, and there was another one in there, I forget. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to it because I'd seen the show, and like I said, it's never been a big. I mean, it was successful, but never a big audience favorite because you leave sort of on a dark note. And, they say that lots of high school groups do it, but again, I was surprised to read they could do it and just do the first act, which is more positive, lots of parts, where you combine the fairy tales, all living in the same universe, whether you're Red Riding Hood and Jack and the Beanstalk. But again, the high school groups drop that second act because that's where the darkness really comes in.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
So rounding up the top 5 is a comedy, The Interview, with Seth Rogen, James Franco.
North Korea doesn't like it. Are you shocked?
I'm surprised. There might be a hit out on those two after this movie. Again, yeah, they're going to interview the dictator from North Korea, and the CIA wants them to take him out.
Yeah, and if you see the preview, I mean, out to dinner?
Yeah, right.
No. Take him out! Kill him! So, like I said, there's a good premise, but is it a one-joke premise? Remains to be seen. I mean, there's a potential that, it'll be funny. And again, it's that comedy. There's always room for a big comedy at Christmas, and it's not a family comedy, but still, it will hopefully do well. But again, I hope it's more than the jokes in the preview, which sometimes that is the case.
Yeah, I mean, these two have done Pineapple Express together. They were in This Is the End, and Seth Rogen had The Neighbors. I mean, I looking at the comedies from this year, it's been not a great year for comedy. So we'll see if The Interview can end on a high note for the year. All right, number 6, Unbroken. Angelina Jolie's directing here about Louis Zampanelli or
Zamperini, I think.
He's an Olympian. He's a World War II pilot and then a POW by the Japanese. So,
and I read the book, huge bestseller for literally years. Wonderful book. When I read it, I knew it was sold to the movies. I thought, that's going to be rough to pare it down, because I thought it would maybe work better as a HBO miniseries with all of the different elements. But again, we're going to be sort of zooming through his life to get into a 2.5-hour movie, whatever the final running time is. But, buzz on that is very good. Angelina Jolie, and how, and they didn't go with a big star routine where, they found sort of if not an unknown actor, someone who was not Brad Pitt.
Right.
And, so, I'm looking forward to it. But like I said, I'm a little concerned because there's a whole lot to cover in a short amount of movie running time.
Right. And there's going to be some awards hopes for this as well.
Oh, yeah.
And they're talking even director for Angelina Jolie.
And they're talking possibly 2 female directors with the woman from Selma and Angelina Jolie.
Right. That would be unprecedented.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to number 7, Clint Eastwood's new film, American Sniper. Bradley Cooper in the lead. We had Fury do well, a couple months before. And
it found that audience of those, people that want a war movie, a well-done war movie. And again, hopefully American Sniper will fill in that spot that last Christmas was Lone Survivor.
Right. And
again, not having read the book, but again, I'm curious how they split it up into, the war scenes, which is what you kind of think it's going to be all about. Then, of course, you have post-traumatic stress things after that. And I read that, there's tragedy at the end of the story, not spoiling it for anybody, but they decided not to film that. They're going to do a crawl at the end that says how it actually resolved itself, after the guy had written his book.
Okay. And another thing to note about American Sniper is I think it's going to get a limited release around Christmas time, and then we'll probably be rolling out to theaters near you sometime in January.
Well, and what's strange is they had no qualms about Lone Survivor at Christmas last year, and it did terrific business. I mean, but I guess they're going to have a lot of high hopes for not only Clint Eastwood usually does well at the Oscars, as and then Bradley Cooper has done well for a couple of years, but actor is awfully tight this year to find room for a good at least 10 actors who are all wonderful and great reviews, and we'll see if who's going to be left crying at the door.
Well, and as going through this list, it's a crowded month, and I think they just do it to kind of spread things out a little bit. And since January is more of a weaker month, that's why we'll be seeing some of these.
And again, that's an audience that is out there, and as long as they reach it, they'll have a hit.
All right, moving on to number 8, Selma. We mentioned this a little bit ago. It's the Martin Luther King Jr. story about Selma and the protests and the arrests and the violence, and basically civil rights movie here. I think this has got awards written all over it. The director could possibly be nominated.
And the reviews, early reviews, have been wonderful. And again, whether Christmas is a good time for that or not, again, I probably get a limited release and then go broad later. Get some Oscar nominations out of that. But it's a fascinating story. Sounds very well done. And just it'd been me, I might have released this in November or earlier. But like I said, they're hoping for Oscar nominations once again. Uh, will there be room for him in the Best Actor?
Mm-hmm.
Hard to say.
We'll see. All right, number 9, Annie, the musical, another version of it.
Did we need another Annie? I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the musical, but once again, a trailer that you don't see a whole lot of singing and dancing in Annie. And there is a whole lot of singing and dancing in Annie, but they're sort of like, oh, maybe people won't realize it's a musical. But again, an interesting cast, but, did we need another Annie? I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Jamie Foxx has some musical talent.
Right.
But
Cameron Diaz is Miss Hannigan. Yeah, I don't know about that, but we'll see.
All right. And then rounding out the top 10 is top 5, the Chris Rock comedy.
Fabulous reviews. Every festival it played at supposed to be hysterically funny and, like an apology for some of the other movies he's not particularly proud of. Even though they were hits and made money, it's not what people looked at him for his stand-up, which was very cutting edge, and you had these movies that were not so much. And so, but this was, they've got high hopes for this, and again, supposedly a very, very good movie. Whether it's Oscar material, most likely not, but again, could get a screenplay or something like that. And if it got Chris Rock, he's got to get in line behind, those other 9 people that are, patiently waiting.
Yeah, I did read that, he kind of saved his good material for stand-up, and this is kind of his first film where he's kind of letting loose with all his jokes.
Yeah, he's given many interviews to talk about that it's, he's going to go all out, and he says, if it had failed, I mean, it would have been really, his fault completely. He can't blame another director or another writer, but he's so far not anybody to blame, just credit to go around.
All right, moving out of the top 10 to number 11, we have Wild. Jean-Marc Vallée, the director of Dallas Buyers Club. This is his next, the follow-up to that, and Reese Witherspoon's getting great reviews for her performance.
Bound to be nominated.
Yeah, that's a lock. For
actress isn't that tight this year, but again, you had a very similar theme, story, and tracks that hardly got a release at all, despite some very nice reviews, which came out, I believe, in early October. And then you have, what sounds like pretty depressing material here, but again, well done. And, Laura Dern, supposedly wonderful as her mother. But you have the kind, I remember I always loved Into the Wild, the Sean Penn movie with Emile Hirsch, and didn't do a dime's worth of business. I mean, despite some very nice reviews. And this is like, I think it's going to be a marketing challenge. I mean, it's not Reese Witherspoon in a romantic comedy, or it's not Walk the Line.
She's having I guess, existential crisis, and just starts hiking the Pacific Trail on her own. Again, very similar to Into the Wild kind of.
Right, and then also you have all these supposed flashbacks that, depressing flashbacks that explain why she's on this trek. So, like I said, I'm looking forward to it. Whether it does business, hard to say. Again, it's got to find an adult audience that doesn't mind mixing that kind of movie with their Christmas cheer.
Okay, number 12, Tim Burton's next film, Big Eyes, about the painter whose husband kind of takes the credit for her work. Christoph Waltz is the husband, and Amy Adams is the painter, and
I think they're both terrific actors. I'm looking forward to it. I like Tim Burton, but again, some early reviews have not been favorable, particularly to him. Another difficult sell, depending how it's done. I got the impression they're doing it sort of as a drama, or again, it sort of leans it could have been done as a comedy, but they're taking it as a drama, and I don't think the Tim Burton audience is going for that, but remains to be seen. It's
hard sell, though.
Oh, yeah.
Especially about painting.
And again, is it making fun of these paintings, which a lot of people do. It's like black velvet paintings, these big eye paintings. People got them, and most of them got them because they were making fun of them, or making fun of the people that bought them seriously. So we'll see. It's an interesting project, regardless of how it turns out.
All right, next is 13, Inherent Vice from P.T. Anderson. This could be a strange movie for some folks out there. Probably not for everyone, but I'm excited. I'm a big fan of P.T. Anderson, and
Well, you think of a lot of wonderful movies there, particularly there will be blood, but then you have The Master, beautifully shot, technically incredible, fabulous cast, but very challenging to follow. I'm not exactly sure what went on there, but again, it was interesting. And again, you have the first time Thomas Pynchon book, who's been a critic's darling for decades. The first time they've adapted one of his works. And again, his stuff is very, very hard. I mean, there's no word for it, hard to read. I mean, there are people that love him, and I find him, hard to get through like a page without potentially going back and reread it. Maybe that's me, but again, he definitely has a critical response to his work, but supposedly following the book fairly closely, which this was a more less challenging of his work. It's more of it's a film noir type takeoff thing, but supposedly very complicated in the book. But maybe he uncomplicated it. Maybe he didn't. We'll see.
We'll see.
Great cast.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix from The Master is.
Oh my God! I mean, there's all sorts of people.
Josh
Reese,
Brolin.
Reese Witherspoon, and I assume a lot of people in smaller parts. But again, P.T. Anderson attracts terrific people like a Woody Allen.
Yeah, I mean, and I do have that lower in the list, and we'll see how it does. I mean, it has potential to move up on the list, but we'll see. All right, 14 is The Gambler. Rupert Wyatt directs. He did the first Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the reboot. Mark Wahlberg is our lead here as a professor and a gambler who kind of gets into some big debt here.
And his mother, played by our lovely Jessica Lange from American Horror Story. The first movie I saw, it was with James Caan, directed by Carl Reis. It was not a big hit. It had some, people that liked it. I remember it was okay. I mean, that's fine. Remake something that, may not have been great and go there. Now, early reviews have not been good, other than Mark Wahlberg, supposedly good, but once again, sort of a hard sell at the Christmas time. I mean, it's not a...
It's a crowded season. I mean, we've gone through a lot of good movies.
Right, a crowded season and an adult audience, and it's going to need reviews, which, it still could get, but again, it's hard to say.
Yeah. 15, Mr. Turner, Mike Leigh directing. Timothy Spall getting all kinds of awards and nominations for his performance.
New York Film Critics won at Cannes, and Mike Leigh is not only a critic's darling but an art house favorite. I mean, he keeps them relatively inexpensive, and this is a rare period piece for him because he did Topsy Turvy about Gilbert and Sullivan. And this, normally he's sort of contemporary, and he does have a very unusual working method where he gets all those actors together for weeks, if not months at a time, to go over their parts and what they're comfortable with and writing dialogue. And then he does a script after, he has that general outline and then bases it on what they've said. And so, it's, who else works that way? A lot of times you hear about people improv on the set and all that sort of stuff, but he does that improv before they get to the set. So once they get there, and again, it's unusual because you have a story that has to follow supposedly certain historical facts with him. And again, Timothy Spall is great. Supposedly production design and stuff is fantastic. I mean, I can't wait. Again, I like Mike Leigh, but again, not for everybody.
Yeah, and this movie probably won't be out there for everyone. I mean, it's going to be an art house release, very limited, and probably maybe on demand and stuff is where.
Yeah, and once Timothy Spall has to get in line with all those other actors, and again, he's been a working actor forever, from the Harry Potters and all sorts of different things, and he's well liked and respected, but I think Robert Redford on All Is Lost, I mean, I just assumed, he was a shoo-in to be nominated, if not win, and he wasn't even nominated. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how Mr. Spall ends up on Oscar nomination day.
All right, quickly moving through the next five, we'll just... number 16 is A Most Violent Year. J.C. Chander, director of All Is Lost and Margin Call, both great movies. Here, Oscar Isaac, Jessica Chastain, I believe, is in this,
Correct.
And getting some good reviews. And
yeah, again, there's been a little hubbub whether they're going to put Jessica Chastain as supporting or starring, but again, supposedly wonderful movie. Variety reviewed it and said it was terrific, and it sounds interesting. It sounds almost like a Martin Scorsese 80s gangster casino type thing, which again is not a bad thing. Again, whether it's the right time of the year or not, but they're hoping Oscar nominations there. But we'll see. And again, it could get lost in the shuffle, but maybe that's another one of those ones that'll come out in later January,
Yeah.
and
Make
maybe it'll be found.
Yeah. All right, 17 is The Pyramid, a horror film. It's really our only major release for the first weekend in December, and
No competition, nothing out there. Probably didn't cost much. Into the profit.
probably will make some money.
Yeah.
All right, 18, our first foreign film we'll talk about, 2 Days, One Night, from the Dardenne brothers. Marion
Critic
Cotillard.
darling,
Yes. Marion Cotillard could be Best Actress.
She won New York Film Critics.
Yeah.
And supposedly, I like a lot of their stuff, but again, it is definitely for an art house crowd. It can be slow. Again, it's more character driven than the plot driven, but still sounds fascinating. She's supposedly wonderful, so maybe the art house audience will find that, And it's
foreign film nomination, and
Yeah.
it's probably bound to be nominated there. All right, 19, another foreign film, Leviathan, from Russia. Again, it's generating a lot of good reviews, and probably will be nominated for foreign.
And again, if I understand it, a marital drama. It was sort of like, not in subject matter, but in theme. I reminded of A Separation, which is a wonderful Oscar-winning film. That it was, you're thinking it's going to be political, and you get in there, and it's this fabulous drama about a disintegrating marriage. And again, I believe Leviathan is something like that, opposed to, I don't want anybody going into it thinking it's a sci-fi movie or something with that title. But
Right.
again, it's a serious
Family drama.
marital drama. Yeah.
Okay. All right, 20, we'll finish with Pioneer, from the director of the original Insomnia from Sweden. Here, though, we have more of an English-speaking cast. I've got it in the independent category. Again, some good reviews, and we'll see what this does. Any thoughts on Pioneer?
No, is it getting a major release? Is it video on demand, or?
Yeah, it will be very limited. It'll probably be an on-demand
Right.
release, and
So we'll need to get some really good reviews so it gets a kind of release other than video on demand. Unless they're going to go the Snowpiercer route, where they're going to make more money on demand than it will.
That's with a lot of these smaller movies, is what they're moving towards now, and we'll see. I mean,
Well, there's a whole lot to see in December, and or in some cases January, or like a Foxcatcher supposedly is moving to some places after the Oscar nominations in late January, early February. So a lot of interesting stuff out there that hopefully will be very, very good. And some of it will not be very, very good, and some of it sadly will be very good and won't do the business. But that's it.
all right, well, that's it for the December preview show. You can check out the full list at moviepowerrankings.com. You can follow us on Twitter at MPRankings, and find us on Facebook, Movie Power Rankings. Thanks for watching.